Always trust.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Ashira Darwish je palestinska novinarka, producentica i terapeutkinja. 15 godina je u Palestini radila za BBC, Amnesty International i Human Rights Watch. Osnivačica je Catharsis Holistic Healing, projekta liječenja traume kroz aktivnu sufijsku meditaciju. Glavna je protagonistica i producentica filma Tamo, gdje masline plaču, o borbi i otpornosti Palestinaca pod izraelskom okupacijom. Za Al Jazeeru govori o specifičnoj vrsti međugeneracijske traume kod Palestinaca, palestinskim razlozima za pružanje otpora i borbi protiv okupacije i genocida.
Ashira Darwish, thank you for agreeing for an interview with Al Jazeera Balkans. And nice to see you here in Sarajevo. You were here for the opening of the AJB Doc Film Festival, where the film that opened the festival was Where Olive Trees Weep. You're the main protagonist of this film. And the film was shot in 2022. It's come out this year in 2024. What does it tell us about all the atrocities done to the Palestinians? Why is it relevant to talk about things that were happening before October 7th?
So the main reason, first of all, thank you. I'm very pleased to be here in Sarajevo. It's an honor to be around such wonderful people and to also see the effect of war in a place where they've also experienced siege, and to be amongst what I feel is family during the time where my people are suffering from genocide. It's very important to show the film right now because so much of the Israeli narrative is that everything as if started on 7th of October. There was nothing before it. And the Palestinians were the protagonists in October 7th. And it's legitimate, the annihilation of an entire people because of the events of that day. And we decided to come out with the film 2 years later so that we can show this. So that we can show what our lives have been for 74 years under occupation by this fascist apartheid regime. And to show what, it's ironic right now because our lives during 2 years ago were nothing in comparison to the pain and to what's happening to us now. And it was already pain from house arrest, detentions, discrimination, humiliation, dehumanization. It's years of dehumanization to the point where Israel is capable now of dropping bombs all over the Palestinians and the world just watches us. The human animals being killed in the safari of Gaza and nobody moving in order to stop it. So we wanted to show our reality before and to show what oppression has meant to live and why the Palestinians would have a reason to resist. We have lived under this cage, in this cage, with these people who treat us as if we're animals, and we're supposed to sit in the cage quietly and die in silence. Why? Why is it that any human is supposed to be living under the conditions that we live in, to be living every day not knowing if you will go home, if your child will go home, what will happen if an Israeli soldier has a bad night with his wife the day before and decides to shoot you the day after? And we're supposed to just accept it. Accept it and not challenge it and not argue against it and not resist it.
You talk about resistance now. In the film, we also see it tackles the Great March of Return. The Great March of Return was this peaceful attempt during 2018 and 2019 by the Gazan Palestinians to peacefully to go out on the borders and show their opinion about the siege and about the oppression. However, the Great March of Return had Israel killing Palestinians with snipers. There were many dead. What does this tell us about what Israel thinks about the peaceful attempts to protest, and what does that mean in the context of this now armed resistance?
The Palestinians have been trying all forms of resistance. We have tried peaceful resistance. We got to the point of signing a peace agreement with the fascists in order to give them the majority of our land so that we can have some peace in the West Bank. And I'm completely against the agreement, but our leaders got to that point where they signed off the majority of our land.
Excuse me, what agreement are you talking
about? Oslo Accord. And we never got peace after that. The Israelis were never had an intent on giving the Palestinians any land. They never had any intent on leaving the territory, and they still have the dream of the greater Israel. They don't want only Palestine, the West Bank, Gaza, all of it. They want parts of Egypt, they want parts of Saudi, they want parts of Jordan, they want parts of Lebanon and Syria. This is the reality of this supremacist regime. It's a colonial regime and wants more and more and more. And we've tried it. We've tried giving them land and seeing what they happen. They put checkpoints, they put a wall. They separated families from each other. We were no longer able to access all of our land. People have been protesting with rocks in the face of tanks in the first Intifada. We stood and we chanted and we sang and we sat idly. We've done every form of non-violent, peaceful resistance in any book that you will possibly see. And the reaction by the Israelis is more violent, more vicious, and more aggressive when it is non-violent resistance. We've seen them in the West Bank, what they have done in the popular resistance in each of the villages. And they treat us the same as they treat anybody with guns or with weapons. They break us, they shoot us, they kill you, no matter what you are. And in the March of Return in Gaza, people have been living in a cage for 17 years. No one shook. The whole world watched as the people of Gaza were suffering and dying in this cage. Chocolate not allowed to enter. The sea, which is the access and the freedom, the Gazans have to swim have 6 meters that they're allowed to swim in.
Or fish in.
Or fish in, or live in. The sea, the sky, and everything is under siege, and these people are living impoverished in the most populated place on earth. And the world watched them die without acting. And then when they rose peacefully, and they marched to the gates to try to get out of this prison, Israeli snipers shot in the most horrific way. Children, women, paramedics, journalists, everyone. No one was spared the brutality and the vicious instrument of Israeli army. And they had their visual, they can see them. And they maimed. It's not only about the 200, 300 people who were killed. It's about the thousands of people who were injured and who were amputated, and with the medical situation also in Gaza. So the Gazans have tried it all. We have, as Palestinians, have tried every single form of resistance to get out of our cage and to get out of this. No one in the world will be able to live in a day in Gaza without immediately thinking about resistance. I would ask any white person to arrive and live the life of a Palestinian for one day, going through checkpoints, having to put your head low so that soldiers don't slap you on the checkpoint, having Israeli settlers run around you and spit on you every day, and not think about resistance. It's the basic normal human reaction if somebody comes into your home, beats you up, rapes your woman, takes your family away, to stand up and fight back. And when the Palestinians fought back, everybody was outraged in the Western world. How dare you, slaves, march against those who are killing you? How dare you resist? America, the Europeans are all allowed the right to resist. In international law, you're allowed to resist the occupier. It is written for us in the law that we have the right to resist our occupiers. But still, the authorities of the world who support Israel for their interests don't give you that right. The rights and laws are written by the rich for the rich and for the colonialists. They do not cover the people of color, they do not cover people of minorities, and they do not cover the Muslims under any circumstances in this Islamophobic era that we are living in. So it's the hypocrisy of the system that tells us we can't resist, but tells them that they can shoot entire nuclear bombs on each other, and it's okay. It's okay that Israel has a nuclear arsenal. That's not a crime. It's okay that Israel bombs hospitals, children, maims them. It's okay that the society asks for the rape of prisoners to be legalized in their system. But the Palestinians? How dare they march and resist? How dare they think about fighting for their lives?
So how does this resonate, this thought of the Palestinians that I know is shared amongst the Palestinians I know, that you're aware of all of this, that you're aware how the rest of the world, a good portion of the world, thinks and behaves and allows and even helps Israel in all of this. How does that feel? How does it feel to be, in a way, abandoned, attacked? What is the emotion? What is the is there a possibility to rationalize this for yourself?
We don't rationalize it, we feel it. We feel angry. And when we're angry, we're supposed to suppress it so that we are accepted. And majority of the Palestinians have to suppress most of their emotions if they're living inside Palestine 48 and inside occupied territories in Palestine. We have to suppress our anger and our rage at our Palestinian authorities that's collaborating with the Israelis. So we have to also hold that within us and not be able to scream out that our own authority is also oppressing us. It's anger and rage, and we have to hold it and suppress it. And when you have the freedom to be able to speak and to rise up, they come after you. You're targeted immediately if you dare to speak. But internally, how I've dealt with it on a personal level, I see the world and I feel like I'm very lucky and privileged to be born a Palestinian. And I'm very lucky that I have this eye, that I know what injustice means. I would never wish on myself to be like them. I would never wish to be a person who stands idly when another person is being beaten, killed, arrested, detained inhumanly. When I would rather die than to be this person who watches refugees being kicked out of their country and sitting in their house and eating and thinking that life is normal. I didn't come to this earth to live an experience of emptiness. And I don't believe that this life, this soul that runs through us in our veins is here just to buy Coca-Cola and to eat in restaurants we are much more than that. And those who think that they are nothing but a speck of material, they live their lives here in trying to chase pleasures of the material world, and they will never attain them. They will never attain a moment of living the intensity of living for every moment that we do in Palestine, knowing that we're fighting for the right thing, knowing that we will not let our neighbors die and starve to death without. People in Gaza are sharing the last pieces of food that they have. People are farming in the sand. People are finding light in the middle of the darkness. And this is the way to be fully alive. I've seen it. I've moved around the world. I've traveled across this globe, and I've seen how people live. And they think that they are free when they're chasing. They think they're free when they have to wake up in the morning and work 24 hours a day and be enslaved to a bigger machine. We are occupied in Palestine physically, violently, but our minds are free. We have the freedom to see what we are. We have the freedom to see life in the joy. We have the freedom to see life in fighting for the freedom and fighting for equality and fighting for justice. We are not imprisoned by money. We are not imprisoned by, and there are people, of course, the Palestinian Authority's position was to create this individualized capitalist system. And there are people who get sucked into the machine. But when you break out of it and you see what the reality of love to the land, love to the earth, the olive harvest in Palestine, living in the worst of conditions and finding light and sharing that with your family and loved ones, being in tribe, against all what they have taught us, that we have to be individual and live your life and run and race so that you can make more money, so that you can please your boss, so that you can one day become something. We want to be in the now, in the living, in the here and now. And the here and now, there's a genocide and people are being killed and slaughtered. Our children are being burned in their tents. If I am doing anything in my life other than being here and now and understanding this state, then I am occupied. They are the ones who are occupied with the material. And we are living our lives in the reality, in the truth of being and fighting for what is right, fighting for the light to engulf this earth, for people all over the world of color, not only the Palestinians, the Congolese, for their women to be able to live a normal life so that big companies don't get to buy the technology. We're fighting a battle also so that the natives who have been killed and wiped out in America have the chance to relive and reconnect with their earth. They've suppressed the real heart of people and the real true essence of being human, and they've made us all into robots. So the battle in Palestine is a bigger battle for everyone.
Do you think people understand how universal this fight and just now this genocide against the Palestinians is? And I often don't think regular people, and even some politicians, even some decision makers, I don't think they're aware of how big this fight is.
And I don't think a lot of people see it because they're also very much immersed and covered behind the veil of darkness. They're covered in, they are consumed by consumerism. They're consumed by living these lives that they have, not to be able to see. And so individualized that it's okay to be living in the US. I found like people live normally and they have homeless people. The majority of the people live in the streets. And now they're criminalizing poverty. And it's okay. They don't see a problem with that. There's a mirage that's been put in front of them that your brothers and sisters are not connected to you. So you're disconnected from everything human about you. They've desensitized and dehumanized creatures, humans, who don't care what's happening in Palestine. It's okay. And they don't see the interconnectivity between Congo, Sudan, Yemen, everywhere that there is injustice. And the camera lens doesn't look at them. We see, even though the camera lens sees only Palestine, we as Palestinians see the rest of the world. We see what is happening around us, and we know the struggles of the people, and we know that we struggle together. I'm just here in Sarajevo, and I'm just learning about what is happening here on this land, what took place, and the injustice that is still there. The injustice that still lives on this land, and how people are also puppeteering and trying to control what is happening to the lives of people here, so that people are never given the right to live. And I used to think it's very much white supremacy. And then I walked here and I'm like, these are white Europeans. The bombs were still dropping on them. Their women are still getting raped. It wasn't about their skin color, it's about their religion. And it's trying to find ways to destroy anyone who's different than you, and also anyone who has something that's connecting to them spiritually and connecting them to the reality of life. Because they want everybody to be connected to one thing, that's the penny, the dollar.
Before this question, you talked about how you deal with your trauma and how you deal with what troubles you. But your work, in your work, you're also a therapist, and you heal trauma to others, especially with children. So maybe if you could tell us a little bit about that, what kind of work have you been doing regarding trauma with the Palestinians? And then I'll ask you the second question right away. What kind of efforts do you think will have to be put into healing the trauma of not just Gazan Palestinians, but all the Palestinians who feel and who endure this genocide that is unprecedented in its destruction of a people on an unimaginable scale?
Therapy that I came up with and that I created is very similar to the concept of decolonization. It's reclaiming that which has been taken away from us. When they told me that after my injury from the soldiers, that I'm paralyzed, never to be able to walk again, it was an option of accepting Western medicine, which I grew up appreciating and respecting and learning, or going to other options to see what is out there. And that's when I connected to my lineage, that's when I connected to Sufi whirling, that's when I connected to Asian and native forms of healing, from Tibetan pulsing to emotional freedom technique to Kundalini yoga, and acquiring those so that I can help myself. And I formulated after I was able to go back to walking, and then I dealt with my mental traumas that I've been embodied and lived through, living and carrying all the weight in Palestine. Through that process, I've created Catharsis Holistic Healing, which is a project that works in Palestine. We started working with former child prisoners because I was arrested first as a child, and that was a detention that affected me, so I wanted to share the experience with children. And I've developed a modality which is Ashira active meditation, which combines all these modalities in a Palestinian way. Listening to our music. We taking it from the tribal connection that we have with the olive trees, with our land, with our existence and our resilience. We have sumud, which is, there's no word to explain it. Resilience doesn't really explain it well, but it's coming in from what we have, our inner strength, and healing from there, breaking the trauma that is put upon us. And it works in the system, in the nervous system. The West tries to disconnect us. And psychology and therapy, the one that we also have in Palestine, I was offered psychotherapy, I was offered pills to relieve my insomnia from torture. I was offered pills in order to remove the effects. And this is what the West taught our teachers, our students, our doctors studied in American institutions, and they have the same theories, that your body is disconnected from your mind and your emotions, and that you're just, give them medicine, fix the system from the outside, and don't deal with the human on the inside. You don't deal with the emotions, where they get blocked. How does your body get affected by it? How does your brain get affected? And how does your faith and your spiritual aspect affect your healing?
And how does that work now? I asked you about the next level of trauma. We've had psychologists and experts say that the Palestinian trauma up until 2023 has been unique and specific and uncomparable to other traumas in the world, especially because of the ongoing decades-long trauma imposed on different generations, so it's intergenerational trauma as well. But so this is the first part, and the second part is what we're witnessing for the past almost 1 year. So what is this kind of trauma, this kind of a genocide that now experts are also saying maybe we need to impose a new word for this kind of a genocide?
It's the Western words of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, it doesn't work on us before the genocide. We have continuous ongoing trauma. Our nervous systems are held in such a way that we are constantly on fight-flight mode. You don't have one Palestinian who has the luxury of sitting and being in a restful place. And the problem with Western therapy is that they want to come and talk to you about the situation when your nervous system is not regulated and is not in safety. You're never safe, because it's not only just to be in Gaza, it's the same for the Palestinian diaspora everywhere. And I've seen it with people around the world. The triggers from this genocide opened everybody's wounds. The Iraqis, the Afghanis, any Muslim who's experienced Islamophobia, any people here in Sarajevo who've experienced war in the rest of Bosnia and Herzegovina, people who've experienced war, immediately their nervous system gets reactivated from what's happening. And they don't understand it. Some people are just normally moving through life, and they don't know why their body gets sick, why they're getting autoimmune diseases, why there's blood pressure is rising, and they don't relate it to the genocide. Because the therapy world doesn't tell you that what happens to the Palestinians when you see the bombs, it reminds you of your trauma. The people in diaspora, the refugees know what it means to have everything taken away, and this gap, this gushing wound that happened in this genocide ripped everyone. Every bomb that Israel dropped, it wasn't only a bomb on Gaza. It was on everyone. It was to keep people around the world in a state of fear, to keep everyone in a state of tension, to elevate this energy of fear and scarcity. And the way that you deal with this in terms of therapy, the way that I see the situation is, just as we inherit intergenerational trauma for the Palestinians, we also inherit sumud. Our grandmothers gave us injections in the blood, in our genes, not injections, but it's in your genes, that they've experienced what it means to be taken away from your home and sent into exile, kicked out of your country, kicked out of your home. You see it in so many of the refugees in Gaza. Gaza is made up of refugees. They're refusing to leave today. Many of them are choosing to die in Gaza instead of leaving. This is because of what their grandmothers experienced and how their bodies are reacting to this. They've been through this. They have the knowing of what it means to be in war. They have the knowing of what it means to stay in the tribe. When entire bloodlines are being killed in Gaza, it's happening because the families come together and they know that in a time of war, we stick together, we hold each other, and we protect each other, and Israel bombs the entire building and takes everybody away together. We know that in order to survive, we go back to the basics. We go back to the ground, to planting. They want to starve us? Plant. We know we are farmers. There's so many things that are happening, and the healing has to be on a collective level. And I was asking here in Sarajevo, was there a collective healing? Was there a process of where people got to recover from what they have experienced during the siege and the rest of Bosnia and all of the massacres that are undocumented and the genocide that wasn't documented? How do people deal with it afterwards? And for us, the Palestinians, I know very well that we heal in groups. We heal in tribe. Our strength is our family and our tribe and community. So the healing has to happen there. And Western modalities should not interfere in our healing. This idea that they're going to ship us some therapists to come and talk to us about the trauma does not work. It has to be us. It has to be somatic. It has to be through helping the children who are coming out of the war in relieving the somatic impressions of the war and reclaiming what has been lost. We have thousands of orphans. How do you deal with that level of trauma? We have to work on an individual level with each and every person. We have to work in collective groups, and we have to work with the Palestinians in diaspora. And what we offer in the program that I offer, we're offering individual therapy right now for free for all. For Palestinians, for international activists, for Jewish activists for Palestine, so that we can release the effects immediately, rather than accumulating the trauma in the body. And we release from the body until we have the safety to sit and deal with what has happened, what has been done to us. We still need the bombs to stop so that we can look and see what we lost. We don't know how many of the children that I work with, that my project works with in Gaza, are still alive or dead. We don't know how many people we've lost. We don't know if people are inside prison or they are in torture chambers or they already were killed and buried in mass graves in Israel. We don't know. We need the bombs to stop so that we can even have an image, an idea of how healing will look like.
Ashira Darwish, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Always trust.
We ask questions.
What is needed in the world?